We sometimes have clients come to us who have been running their own marketing for a while, but have hit a brick wall. They simply cannot get more than a handful of people interested in their game. Often, these clients are stumped and at their wits, and they have tried everything, but nothing seems to work. When you work on enough marketing projects, and I do estimate I have published upwards of 200 games in some capacity over the years, you start to spot trends that make these issues a lot easier to diagnose and treat. Here are the top 5 reasons we find indies are not getting the attention their developers were hoping for and how to steer things back on track for your game. With 600 annual releases on Steam every single month, there's going to be no shortage of indie games in 2019. A lot of them will be good, enjoyable experiences, with solid and polished mechanics that get all but completely ignored. Why? Because the success of even a high-quality product in a competitive market is hampered by a lack of originality. With so many games to choose from, another addition to the already oversaturated mix is always going to struggle to cut through the noise. No gamer in 2019 is thinking, I wish there were more indie platformers to buy. Stalwart underdogs can be a great way to cut your teeth in games making. There are plenty of resources, tutorials and communities to help you out, but they are not the best way to go if you are hoping to achieve commercial success. In a crowded market, the people who stand out are the innovators, and if you can be one of those, you are already ahead of 95% of the competition. Another symptom of games being such a crowded market is that players do not need to look hard or far to find something they might want to play. The sheer ludicrous number of games on the App Store, Steam, or even the Nintendo eShop these days means gamers are used to idly browsing and only paying attention when something really stands out. If your game looks mediocre, and by looks, I mean anything from your trailer to your screenshots to your logo and overall brand identity, then you are asking for people to scroll right past it. The fact is that today's most successful indie games almost, without exception, are beautiful creatures, with slick art direction, professional production values, and strong marketing imagery. The idea that indies can get away with looking less polished than their AAA counterparts is nowadays, if it were ever true, an outdated and misleading notion. This might sound obvious, but if you want people to know about your game, you have to tell people about your game. There appears to be a common misconception among certain indie development circles that emailing a few journalists and tweeting a couple of times a week is enough to start the word spreading. But it categorically is not. Taking potential players from interested to enthusiastic is a journey, and it's a journey a lot of people will burn out of midway. It's why in marketing we'll talk about a sales funnel with a big, wide opening at the top and a tiny hole at the bottom. This excellent article from Phil Better's Haley Wells explains sales funnels in more detail. Haley explains how a lot of indies make the mistake of focusing on only the top and bottom of the funnel line, your announcement, and your start page. This is true, but I do also add that many indies simply do not have enough people to the funnel in the first place, meaning that by the time you are ready to launch their game, only a handful of people care. Marketing is a numbers game. You tell X number of people about your product, Y number of people like it enough to follow it long term, and Z number of people end up buying it. Z will always be a small percentage of Y, and Y will always be a small percentage of X, so it's vital that X is big enough to begin with. Scream from the rooftops. Devise multiple pre-launch PR campaigns. to it every flipping hour. Otherwise, you will be drowned out by someone else's voice. A long while ago, I had a client who was making a game for teenage boys. They invested heavily in advertising the game to this market, and attempting to be featured on websites and in magazines targeted toward that demographic. But despite the heavy investment, they simply were not picking up any momentum. What exactly was going on? We quickly stumbled upon the answer when we spoke to a sample of teenage boys about the game. A large number of them said the very concept of the game simply did not appeal to them. It can be easy to fall into the trap of talking about your game to the people you want to like it, rather than trying to understand who are the people who actually don't like it. Another common example of this lies with developers of small pixel art indie titles, continually pitching in and GameSpot and wondering why they are not getting anywhere. The reality is that in-and GameSpot's audience does not play that sort of game, so those websites are hugely unlikely to bother publishing anything of the sort. Show your game to different audiences and find out how they react. Figure out where your most enthusiastic fans hang out, and focus your attention there. Maybe this will come back to bite me later in the year, when we are trying to book in work at the Christmas period. But screw it. It's important to be honest. If you are releasing or announcing your game between October and December, you are setting yourself an enormous and often insurmountable challenge. While big-name game series are spread more evenly across the year these days, there's still a triple spike during these months. Accordingly, it's also during this month that there's a huge spike in marketing noise, as publishers compete for column inches on billboards and PAs. This fierce competition pushes up the cost of marketing, and it makes organic promotional efforts more difficult to land, because journalists and influencers can barely find a second-tier step away from all the triple A madness. That is not to say indies cannot do well during these months. There have of course been notable exceptions to the rule. But if you are planning to show something toward the end of 2019, you better make darn sure you have got numbers 1 to 5 under control. Otherwise, number 5 on this list is likely to be the nail in your game's coffin. Denby is the director of indie game marketing and PR agency Game. If you are a indie publisher of the indie game website, occasional game dev, recovering games journalist at GameFly, in this DD 2011 talk, Valve's Mike Ambinder explores how the company is making use of biofeedback, the measurement, display, analysis modification, manipulation, and response of psychological signals to both explore new avenues of gameplay and improve in-house playtesting processes. Using Valve's own portal tool, Left 4 Dead 2, ANDALID and Swarm as examples, Ambinder explains how the studio measured players' skin conductance response, heart rate, and eye movements to design titles that effectively toy with players' psychological limits. It was an insightful talk that's definitely still worth watching. So developers should not miss the opportunity to do so now that it's freely available on the official GD YouTube channel. In addition to this presentation, THEGDC Vault and its accompanying YouTube channel offers numerous other free videos, audio recordings, and slides from many of the recent game developers conference events. And the service offers even more members-only content for DD Vault subscribers. Those who purchased all-access passes to recent events, like DD Vault, already have full access to DD Vault, and interested parties can apply for the individual subscription via the DD Vault subscription page. Group subscriptions are also available. game-related schools and development studios who sign up for the Vault Studio subscriptions can receive access via their entire office or company by contacting staff via the HGGDC Vault Group subscription page. Finally, current subscribers with access issues can contact the Vault technical support. Gamasutra and DD are sibling organizations under parent company Informa. In this DD 2018 session, game developers Brandon Sheffield, Audrey Moon and Denby chronicle the ups and downs of the development of their vastly different games to help developers better understand the game development process, one that represents a more personal artistic approach, while the other worked with the Spider-Man license. The last discusses an update to an existing game. Many years later, as games scale up in team size, development gets more complex, and this talk shows a wide variety of game dev pitfalls and buttons to keep in mind. It's an insightful talk that's definitely worth watching.